T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Technology is tripping. All right, so I'm trying to figure out why in the world it's talking about T minus 20 seconds and it's already been going live a whole lot longer before that. So, hey family, how you doing? It's Mr. R2 here at Texas Black Pages, and we are having our first one this month, Black Author Spotlight. So if you're viewing this and you can hear me, hopefully you can. So before I jump into it, what I want to know from you is if you can hear me, because I don't want to continue this conversation if you cannot hear me. So go ahead and drop down and put into the chat that I can hear you, thumbs up, whatever it is. Also, what happens when you actually begin to communicate and conversate within the chat itself, it taps into the algorithm and it allows it to move up a lot higher on your news feed so other people can join in to learn and to begin to discuss what we're going to be talking about. So I need to know if you can hear me, and then we'll jump right into it. Without further ado, so how's your day? How's your week? This week has been a very full week for me, so I pray that your week has been very successful thus far. I pray that your week has been productive. I pray that anything that might have gone on in your week that was not favorable for you, I pray that the weekend becomes a lot greater than what your week was. So I thank you and I appreciate you for staying and being here within what you're going through, because it has to get better. It will get better. Believe in it, and it will definitely get better. So we're going to be talking about this book. I'm not going to jump 2 feet in this book. I'm going to let the author speak about this book. To me, it's the title. The title itself was so beautiful. It had to been a godsend, to have and to create this title. My mother on there. Hey, mom, make sure you pay attention to this. This young lady right here has wrote a very powerful book that I think is going to be beneficial for all ladies to want to tap into, because there are a lot of men out there that are jumping into relationships that are broken. There are women that are jumping into relationships that are broken. So if you kind of get the hint about what this book is going to be about, so what? Good. I'm proud of you. But we're going to bring in the author and she's going to talk to you. She's going to give you the title of the book. And then we're going to get to know more about her. And then let's begin to have this open discussion, because I think that I just see this as an event. Let me pull her in so we can have this conversation. I just see this as an event that I would love to have men and women to talk about this. But without further ado, here is the lady herself, Miss Chantrell King. Introduce the people to you, and let's begin this really heavy topic right here.
Great evening, everyone. My name is Chantrell King, as Mr. Russell stated. I am located in the Central Texas area. I am an Army veteran, married 22 years to my husband, who is also Army veteran retired. We are the host of Marriage Mondays with the Kings radio show, which we have been doing this for going on 5 years now. Also graduated from the awesome University of Mary Hardin Baylor. And I am marriage, family, and child therapist. So going from the title of the book to what I am now, I'd have to say that the book is what got me here. However, the title of the book is I Cannot Love You Because I Am Broken. So that's the title and what we'll be speaking about on tonight.
Man, that title is like, it's a gut punch. It's a gut punch. I mean, punch you in the stomach and make you realize that you have to sit down before you get up and include someone in your mess. So where did the title come from?
Well, actually, over the years, and that's why I introduced in the introduction, I spoke about being in radio. So, throughout the years, one of the things I used to always hear, and I'm very transparent, is there are no good men out there. There are no good men. Oh, all men are dogs. Or people would talk about, not even want to be in a relationship, not even want to be married. Like, I don't even want to go through that. And so it would kind of make me feel some kind of way because I'm like, well, marriage is really not that bad. Being in a relationship is really not that bad. And so it was always like individuals pointing the finger at the other person. The fault was always on the other person.
Right.
And so going through, pandemic, having time to really think, having time to sit still, because sometimes we are so busy, we never take time to really sit still and reflect. And I just really got to thinking, and it made me reflect back over my life as well as receiving so many questions from individuals, around the world in our inbox. They're wanting advice, but the advice that we started to give, they really, in a sense, I don't think really wanted to hear it
Right.
because it deal with having to reflect on self. So what is it about you? We always blame the other individual when it comes to the marriage not working, the relationship not working. I seem like I'm in and out different relationships and things of that nature, but we never want to talk about ourselves. So
Right.
that's what this book reflects.
Right. And one of the things that so I'm going to it's an exercise that was given to me. I don't know where I was at this time in my life. But I think this is an exercise that you can even do if you have groups and stuff like that. Even the
Mhm.
viewers is an exercise that you can do as well. So if you're watching this, you too, Ms. King, if you're watching this is an exercise that I want you to do. I want you to take your arm and point it straight out at the fingers from your finger.
Okay.
All right. Now take that same finger and point it at yourself. Don't bend the elbow.
Oh, mm,
Straight out.
it's not working.
Straight straight out. Now take that finger that you're pointing and point
Mhm.
it at yourself.
Okay.
Bend and try to point that finger like you point at somebody else.
Hmm.
Try to point it at yourself.
I can't without bending my arm.
But but do you feel that tension
Hmm.
in your wrist?
Hmm.
That's how painful it is to look within.
That's good.
That pain that you feel in your wrist.
Hmm.
Just like some of the things that you were saying, I can't without bending my elbow. I can't say it's me. I can't look at the iceberg at at the bottom because I only want to see what I want to see. So when we look at ourselves from that perspective to try to jump into a relationship and you're broken, you can't because you have to start from that pain point.
Right.
You have to begin from that pain point. Um, so now when it comes to what would you say to a young girl who's coming out of a relationship and she thought she was uh uh ready? What would you say to her before she moves on?
I would definitely say get to know yourself, but then also sit back and reflect on the things that you did like in the relationship, the things that you
Mhm.
didn't like in the relationship. Because being the fact that we are nurturers as women, we
Mhm.
like to help. We like to, try to help others heal and different things like that, even if that means placing ourselves on the back burner. And
Mm.
so, with that, a lot of times I see that I've been through it myself, that we jump into because we then become fixers
Mm.
to what the individual is going. And then if an individual do not reciprocate that which we are sowing into them, then we get upset. So
Mm.
I would always tell before you, I don't care, male, female, get to know yourself. What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What was your triggers? What used to make you upset?
Mhm.
Things of that nature. So definitely get to know yourself and then do an evaluation or AAR, like we used to say in the military, on that relationship and not necessarily always blaming the individual. But okay, what could I have done better? What could I have
Right.
done different? So that's something that I would definitely share.
Right. So let's talk about triggers. What are triggers
Mhm.
for someone who don't know or someone who thought they did know? So what are triggers?
Okay, so triggers are basically when someone does something to you, but they were not the originator. And it when they do something to you, it trips you up, if you will, and it causes you to instantly get angry. And so, for an example, I hate to go military, but that's in me. Say, for instance, I'll use this, and I was thinking about this preparing for tonight's interview. Post traumatic stress disorder. And it doesn't just happen, PTSD doesn't just happen in the military. So, to give an example and make it plain, the initial issue or initial problem was probably something that originated in the military. But one of the things sometimes as veterans we do is we want everyone to walk around on eggshells around us. And no, we need to fix what originally broke us, not make
Mhm.
everybody else walk on eggshells around us. So when it comes to relationships, when we do not go back to the brokenness and identify it, recognize it, yeah, it's not going to feel good. Then
Mhm.
when if my husband, this is a good example. Oh my God, this is a good example. So growing up, one of the things that my father used to do is when he would come into the room, he would flip on the light and yell.
Mhm.
And so when my husband, we got married, he would just flip on the light. He didn't think nothing of it, and I would instantly get mad. And I'm like, why are you doing that? I'm trying to sleep, pull the
Yeah.
covers over my head, get mad or whatever. We first got married. That's a trigger. So it wasn't my husband who originated, it was actually my dad, but I take my anger and frustration out on my husband.
Mhm.
So that's a good example, I think, of what a trigger is.
Right. And I think that uh oftentimes we get lost in it, with the me, the you, the I, and we're trying to figure out, kind of like what she said with that example. It wasn't him. There was there was previous experience that carried over into
Mhm,
her right now. And I could say, the same thing. There were some things that I had dealt with in previous relationships that will cause me to close in,
mhm,
because when I identify those things and I know that I don't have to like it anymore, so those things trigger me, and I will shut down before I
mhm,
begin to open back up when I feel some sort of level of comfort.
mhm,
Um, and again, that's just me. Those are the things that I deal with, and I think that when it comes to us and our relationships, and being in a broken space, I think sometimes men, um we don't recognize that we're broken.
mhm,
We feel that, oh, I'm all right. We feel that it's not masculine to have um a conversation, like for me, again, I'll be transparent. So
okay.
for me, when it comes to conversations, when it's dealing with the matter of the heart, it's still hard for me to have that conversation.
Mhm,
It's still hard for me to communicate about it, instantly. And I would say, well, um, let me think about it. And I'm still learning that. I don't know how to communicate about it at this time,
mhm,
but give me some time and I'll be ready to communicate about that. That took maturity to get to get to that point,
mhm,
to say that. I mean, I'm still dealing with that. Sometimes it's automatic and I say it. Then another time I will shut down. And I think when men are broken at that point, they
mhm,
do carry that over because they have yet to heal.
mhm.
So how, from your point of view in your profession, what are some things that men can do to begin to heal, um, in no matter what, whether it's from a communication standpoint? What are some of the things that you see?
Well, the first thing that I would probably share and say for both men and women, number one, ask yourself, do you have a voice?
Mm,
And the reason why I say that is because in some cultures, especially, I'm black, so I'm talk about the black community. Think about some of the things that we heard when we were being raised. Okay. And then I'll go specifically to the males here in a minute. So prime example, when you were getting a whooping, and you want, you start crying, you keep on saying, I'm gonna give you something to cry for. And it's just different things that we universally, I guess, was taught growing up. And so it kind of crushed your voice. And
mm,
so what I've seen in men is that very thing. A lot of men didn't have a voice. Actually, I wanted to bring this up. You might not even be aware of this, but even before I started writing a book, you had an interview with Mr. Jones. I didn't get his permission, so I won't say his whole name. And it was when everything was going on. And he was speaking about how he didn't have a voice growing up. And I remember
mm,
watching in my closet, putting up clothes, and I was like, oh my God, that's so good. That's so true. And so when it comes to men are supposed to be protectors. Men aren't supposed to show their emotions. Growing up as a young boy, a lot of men will get a whooping if you even showed any emotion of crying. It's sad, but it was a norm across the board. And from generation to generation to generation, we would continue as Black people to pass that down from generation to generation, especially amongst our men. And so
mm,
until we shift, so as far as men, ask yourself, do you have a voice? Ask yourself the question, why do I get so angry when my significant other, my wife, my girlfriend, whomever, when she asks me a question, why do I get mad? Why do I shut down? So first you got to ask those questions to start identifying where that came from. And then sit back, just think back. Where did this come from? Where did I first start hearing this? And it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. Some individuals do go to counseling. That's
mm,
something that we were taught in the Black community. We don't go to counseling.
yeah,
We're not crazy.
yeah,
That's standard across the board. I've heard it so many times. But working with someone, but what I commend you and what you said is that you would say, okay, hold on, let me think about it. At least you're working on it to where you can formulate what you want to say and be able to say it. A lot of men I notice are not transparent. And even in relationships, when you get grown, if you start to try to share your feelings or you shed a tear, 9 times out of 10, women are like, you asked me to be transparent, so I'm gonna be transparent. Oh, you a punk, you soft.
yeah,
Like, I didn't
yeah,
get with a man for you to be sitting up here crying. Are you really crying in Lion King? Like, I've heard it all. You hear me? And I'm just sitting up here like, maybe something happened when Mufasa died. You know what I'm saying? It triggered that individual and stuff like that. And so what we don't do as a people is it's customary in a sense that we joke about it. We just kind of
mm,
laugh it off. And sometimes it's not that is sometimes a sign of brokenness, a sign of hurt. And so definitely identifying it, thinking back, where did this come from? Did you used to get a whooping for speaking your truth or trying to have a voice? Because
mm,
9 times out of 10, from what I've seen with males, okay, sports, be good at sports, be good at, this, going out, being a moneymaker. But what about the internal part? So what I always share with people is instead of jumping in relationships, you're thinking about the exterior, the representative, how much money he or she make, things, what you can get out of them. But my question is, especially in the 2021, after we seen what 2020 was like, what is that
mm,
mind like? When you get
mm,
upset. So if I wasn't married, I married at the age of 20, but if I wasn't married and I was out there dating right now, I need to know, how do you deal with your anger? Do
mm,
you avoid having conversations? Do you lash out and take it out on me, make it my fault? Like, how do you process this? I will probably even ask the question, and maybe that's because, being a therapist. So how do you communicate? What is your
right,
ways? Or do you just regress? Because a lot of males just regress inside. And then we get upset as females. But the thing is, I really can't get mad at you unless I sit back and start, okay, wait a minute. Let me reflect a little bit. Where does this potentially come from? But what we get is, oh, you don't trust me? Oh, you don't want to be, that's what we doing. We coming at the man, but you pushing him further in the corner, sis. for all the women is listening. And then you wonder why he don't want to tell you anything. How do I know? Because that used to be me fussing and
Yeah.
cussing. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna be honest. But I had to learn how to mature. So with males, I would just say don't be afraid to establish your voice even if you are older. Because what I notice about men, they'll just, as we used to say back in the day, sit back in the cut. They won't say
Yeah.
nothing. They just nod their head. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's it. But really start working on having a voice.
Right.
Another reason, I'm gonna say this, and then I know you probably got another question that we don't work on, whether male or females, is a lot having to do with upbringing. That's why we don't have healthy boundaries. That's why we let our family talk to our wife like she crazy, or let mama, you know what I'm saying, talk to, vice versa. Let our families bleed over into what we're trying to create and build. So I done just took it a whole nother way. Sometime, Ronnie, you just gotta
Yeah.
flow with me.
Yeah. Nah, I think like for my age group, I mean, I'm 44. For
Mhm.
my age group, when we were coming up, it's like shut up was so common inside the home
Yes.
that it became second nature
Mhm.
because you felt you wasn't ready to talk. Or like my mom, she will always ask us, well, what are you thinking, to try to get us to talk, to
Yes.
try to get us to think. But we still had to grow and to nurture to that point. Now for me, I didn't get to that point until my doggone 30s. I don't
Mhm.
care how many times my mother wanted me to talk. I mean, I can reflect back on that now
Mhm.
and see that that was a healthy root that was being planted at that time, and I can reflect, and it allows me to grow now
Mhm.
because I remember it. But how many parents was broken trying to raise
Ooh.
a son,
Mm.
but she was already broken in the past relationships that he or she had. So
Mhm.
now that same brokenness and that same spirit that they had when they were in that relationship has transitioned over to that child,
Yes.
has allow that child to not know how to speak up for themselves, like she was
Mhm.
saying, not
Mhm.
understanding that your voice not just need to be heard, but your voice need to be recognized
Right.
at the same time. And then that same spirit just begins to become that generational curse, and we
Mhm.
grow up not knowing how to communicate. We're growing up not knowing how to love because we were never given love. We was
Right.
always um, there's a difference between giving love and showing love,
Mm.
and knowing that you're loved, because most children, they may get one of them. Mom, do you love me? I show you, right? Like, come on now.
Right.
A lot of parents, they mine didn't communicate from that standpoint. But especially being a drill sergeant, you had so many different young kids inside of your platoon, and you have those conversations with them, and you learn from that. Um, yeah, I don't want to jump off point, but I mean, this right here, it's always been within me to have these types of conversations because this title of the book is just so powerful. Um, there needs to be an apology right
Yes.
now between men and women. If you start your relationship from that point, because you never know what that woman went through, and you
Mhm.
never know what that man has gone through, or what that man or that woman is still going through, that they're trying to figure it out at the same time. So that's hard.
Right.
Relationships aren't easy,
Mhm.
but you have to want to work on it, and you have to understand that it takes work in order to continue it.
That's true. And it's like one of the things in the process of writing the book, I realized a lot of things about myself.
Mhm.
So one of the things that we do as a people, most people, is we will say we're healed by just putting it in a little box and forgetting about it, whatever it may be. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh no, like you said, I'm good. I'm good. Just lying. Like, no, you're not. And so me and my husband, we had kind of got away in the midst of COVID, just went on the road, which was amazing. And I heard this and I asked the question of him. What I heard was, when it comes to being in a relationship with someone, you seek what you didn't have when you were a child.
Mhm.
Okay. That's what you actually really want underlining out of a person, what you didn't have as a child. So I asked him, and I'm not going to lie, I forgot, what he said, but I know my answer was, I said love and protection. And he
Mhm.
was like, huh? And I said, now, just what you were saying about love. I said, and when you all read the book, you will definitely understand what I'm talking about. I said, me, wait, how? Little different, you know what I'm saying? And then the protection piece, because of what is in the book, when you all read the book, you'll be like, wow, okay, that's why she said this and stuff. And
Yeah.
so I did not realize that that's what I desire from my husband. This whole time I used to tell him, which it probably used to hurt him, because some of you ladies may have heard, and I'm not going to be that blunt when I say, but don't depend on a for nothing. I took that
Yeah.
to heart. You hear me? So when me and that brother started dating, I was like, I don't need you. I got my own money. I'm in the army. I was horrible. Like I always say, I wouldn't have dated myself. But with that being said, he stayed in there with me, and I realized my husband offered protection, and he do love me. He treats me like a queen, but it was underlying issues that I had within myself from my childhood that I
Mm.
think I was projecting onto my husband, counselor word. I was projecting onto my husband, and it was unfair. And so sometimes when it comes to whatever you're lacking or lacked in your childhood, you expect it from the individual that you are with. And when they don't reciprocate it the way that you want them to, and you don't even know how to communicate that to them. Baby, I don't
Yeah.
know how to tell you, my husband from Texas, I ain't got to worry about that protection thing. But like, say, for instance, give good examples. I love giving good examples. So what I have learned, and this is not true in all cases, but most common in males, is when that father is not present in the home. So when that father's not present in the home, and I heard a lot of males say, I'm good. And I'm thinking, you a good lie, but okay. I mean, if that's what you feel, I'm good. No, because there is a void, even with a female. When the dad is not present in the home, the dad is the one that's supposed, that's your first love right there. I mean, behind God, but on
Mhm.
earth, that is your first love. And so when how it plays out in the relationship isn't jealousy, being
Mhm.
overprotective. Okay, it only took you, well, according to Google Maps, it only take you 5 minutes to get home from work. Where else did you stop off at? Oh, you cheating on me. Oh, you with somebody else, and then your
Yeah.
person's looking like, I, I went and got some gas, like you tripping. And then it's a whole big explosion. So a lot of things that we lack in our childhood, when we do not recognize it and work on it, we then set up here and say, well, I just can't, it's no good men out there, it's no good women. No, that's not the case.
Mhm.
Not to work on yourself, because when you heal properly from your brokenness, you put in the work, you do the work. I went to counselors before I became a
Mhm.
counselor, but I went to counselors and I was like, wow, okay, that's why I act like that. We don't want to go. We don't want to go to premarital counseling because I don't want to know Mr. King's dirt. All I want to do is say I do and have my wedding and him give me that 20-carat ring or whatever. But then you get mad when you get into marriage because you didn't want to deal with the what's beneath, to say, yeah, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe we need to wait, or you need to heal in some things, I need to heal in some things. How
Yeah.
can we expect our generations to be strong and build strong generations and strong marriages and things like that if we do not deal with our what broke us in the first place? If we
Right.
can't speak on it, when it is something, and this is what I learned, when you are broken from something and you have not done the healing, you cannot talk about it without getting emotional.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, I'm not talking about you cussing folks out and all this okay, can't talk about it with. But when you've done the work, then that's when you can begin to talk about it. You can begin to help others heal from it. I have people all the time. Let's see when this book. Dang, you went through all that?
Yeah.
I did. But how are you able to talk about it? I couldn't answer that for a long time, but it's healing. I had to do the work. So I couldn't be the wife and the mom that I needed to be. I couldn't, you spoke about generational curses. It stops here. That's what I told my husband in 2019. Nothing. I don't want nothing else to pass through because I need to be thinking about my future generation. I need to think about my grandchildren and my great grandchildren. I don't want to be the one to set up here because I've heard this said several times. Everybody in my family is divorced. Oh, the devil is a lie. What we got to work on up in here because I want strong families, strong marriages, a strong lineage. And how can we have that if we're not willing to address what broke us in the first place and do the work?
Right. Yeah. I think that it starts here. You know, it starts here. It starts from that transparent place. And
Yeah.
I think when we begin to walk in the line of accountability, then we have the ability to be transparent because you can't be, this is just my thoughts.
Okay.
What makes sense? Why will it make sense for you to be transparent but not accountable? It doesn't go together. You have to come from a place of accountability in order for you to walk down the aisle of transparency.
Wow.
Because you can't be transparent about something that you have not identified that you need to fix, or something that you cannot identify that you're working on. Because when you have began the process of working on it, then you could be transparent with your mate about what
Right.
you're working on. Then they have the ability to understand when you say, give me time, because they know you're working on it. And that allows them to not, they're going to push or pull.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
where are you at in that process? Are you the person that's going to push that person away or push that person down? Or are you going to be the person that's going to pull them in, that's going to get them to want to be healed, that's going to get them to want to have that conversation, that's going to get them to be able to be accountable for their level of transparency? And I say level of transparency only because sometimes it takes time to get to that point.
Yeah.
So it's level of transparency in order for you to, how come you can't do this? Because there's, like when they say there's levels to this, there are
Yeah.
plenty of levels to it, but you have to be working on it at the same time. And I think it's that time, you know,
Yeah.
in our lives, when you get one thing that, like, I talk to my son about is, I want you to know at 21 what I know at 44.
That's good.
Because when I speak to you at 21 with what I know at 44, when you get 44, you should understand concepts on what's going on in your life because you have developed at an earlier age. It's not that my parents didn't talk about it, but when your parents are learning themselves at the same time, then how are you to learn?
Right. Right.
How are you to learn the process of relationship building? I mean, you may learn from one parent, then you may learn from one parent than you do from another parent. So that's when sometimes you're having learning from two halves to make it whole.
Right.
I'll get off.
That's true. That is so true. And I mean, we have a total of 5 children. I didn't say that in the beginning. 3 grown children. And what you are saying when you're talking about changing the narrative, because that's something I love to say all the time. It's time to change the narrative. One thing that we do as parents is we will work extra hard to make sure that our children do not experience the life. Even though some lives may be good, some grew up in humble beginnings, you know, we will work extra hard. That's good. You know, you want to give them all the things, the name, shoes, and all that. But like you said, what about the knowledge? What about being able to have that conversation conversation, because a lot of us growing up couldn't have the conversation with our parents. I was
Mm.
one that always asked questions. And I was one that always, when the elders used, I'd be over in the corner ear hustling, because kids can be in grown folks' conversation. So I learned not to say them, but I learned a lot by listening. And so with that, a lot of us couldn't have those transparent conversations. You said your mom, which is amazing, would always ask, what are you thinking? What is on your mind, to get you to talk and things like that. But even with the pandemic, I was having a conversation today, and this is what I said. I believe God is trying to slow us down to get us back to what's important. Because even myself was running 100 miles an hour with my husband, dragging kids in tow, going to church, this business, that business. But it's like, wait a minute, time is passing, and we don't think about it as parents until we see them kids crossing the stage. And then that's when we want to parent them, And so what, I'm much like you, my husband, sit down, let's talk. What you want to talk about? And very transparent. You kept saying transparency. With healing comes transparency, because I don't want my children to go down the same road. If they want to have the conversation, they old enough, making sure you communicate on their level. When it comes to relationships, and our oldest son can tell you, oh man, my mama's off the chain, because I'm telling you straight up like it is. If you go, if you was to go to the club, do this and da da da. And so it's a barrier in communication when we as grown people, parents, don't know how to communicate because we are broken, because we haven't yet healed. Then we don't understand that the love that we have for our children, we're stifling them. And so what we often try to do is, when our children get grown and they get in a relationship, then that's when you want to jump in and intercede. No. The Bible say, train up a child, homie. You had your time back in the day. Now you got to let them, as being grown. Only thing we can do as parents is pray. That's what I do, because a grown person, like I always say, a grown person gonna do what a grown person's gonna do. So training them up while they're in your home, allowing them to ask the questions, learning how to maybe even establish your voice as you're explaining to them. Well, baby, the reason why mama like this, because I had a humble beginning. And I go in on you a bit. I don't mean trying to be mean, but I want you to have better than what I had, But what we do is we don't have a voice, and then we vicariously try to live through our children and get mad because they don't become the NBA star, the NFL player, or Dallas Cowgirl, cheerleader, whatever, boys, whatever, So it is very important to stop jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship, because we cannot find healing in people, especially if we don't talk about what broke us. Now, everybody can't be as transparent as me, but one thing I realized is, because the question on another interview I was doing, people always used to ask, well, marriage Mondays with the Kings or marriage mornings with the Queen. Shan, why are you so honest? Like, why are you so straightforward? Because I didn't have a voice as a child. So now I have a voice, and I can use that voice to help others. So my question is, what are we trying to do? Are we just going to sit back like the old heads used to do, just sit back in the corner and don't say anything? Or are we going to get back to what it was, which is what I appreciate, where the old heads used to say, come here, youngster. Or the older women used to say, come here, sit down. Baby, you messing up. You know what I'm saying? We don't have that no more. So we're like a fish out of water, because don't nobody want to listen to anybody, because we don't want to identify the brokenness inside of us. We got to do better. We got to do better. So
so there's two things that I was taking notes as you were talking.
Okay, I thought you was texting. My bad.
Nah, don't do that.
I'm playing.
So there's two things that I love that you said. You can't find healing in people. That's just like a man saying, a man trying to fix a woman, or a woman trying to fix a man.
Yes.
You can't find healing in people. Again, like we have been discussing and communicating about, you have to want to fix yourself. You can't try to find someone that's going to fix you. You're broken. So how is someone else going to fix you when you can't even fix yourself.
Come on, sir. Come on. Don't get
And
the preaching
another
on here,
thing,
Mr. Russell. Come on. I'm about to throw the white handkerchief. Okay, I'm sorry.
uh,
So,
and and another thing that you said, which is funny because I had a meeting yesterday, and I was speaking with this older gentleman about this um, intercession. You know,
mm,
we grew up in a time where our communities we used to intercede for one another,
yes.
and
Yes.
right now the community structure has been broken for so long that there aren't a lot of intercession going on,
Mm-hmm.
and even within our homes, and we're trying to develop some sort of healing process because we don't want to continue on a generational curse that when we try to, like I tell my son, I said, as an adult, I'm
Mm-hmm.
only going to give you recommendations.
Mm,
It's up to you to listen to what I say and figure out what's the best plan of action that you're going to execute. But I'm
mm-hmm.
only going to give you a recommendation. To me, that is the best intercession that you can give your child is
Right.
just recommendations. I am going to
Mm-hmm.
intercede for you. I'm only going to say things that I feel, and then I'm going to pull back because I pray that I've given you enough tools that you can actually execute the thoughts that you are going to actually begin to walk in that same fashion. So let's begin to intercede for one another as
Yes.
men and women. Let's begin to intercede within our relationships because we have to have intercession if we're ever going to break down the conception of what
Mm-hmm.
healing is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Healing is not a healing is not a compromise. I don't
Right.
know why people think that, but healing is not a compromise. You're
Right.
either going to do it or you're not. You're either
Mm-hmm.
going to allow it or you're not. It's not a compromise. So let's stop
Right.
trying to dealing with this foolishness on trying to compromise with our healing. Just heal, because how are you going to get into a relationship and you're still broken?
That is true. That is so true. And, I really would appreciate if individuals, because of course, people do not want to speak about, going to counseling now, and I really hate to say this like this because I'm happy that it's taking place, but it seems like once the celebrities start talking about it, then it's the end thing to do.
Mhm.
Not because the celebrities is doing it, it's because you need it as an individual. And so what we tend to do, especially, and I'm not just, calling on, but we definitely need a lot of healing because a lot of hurt has taken place in the Black community. Um,
Mhm.
so the thing that gets me is that we'll clown, if you will, another part. What? You going to cancel? We'll make it a joke.
Yeah.
Joker, you laughing at me? You need to be going too. You know what I'm saying? So, but
Yeah.
allow individuals to heal, allow individuals to go through it. It's not funny, and
Mhm.
nowadays it's sometimes, I hate to say it like this, but it's life or death situation. It's a
Mhm.
life or death situation. So with me, when I went through counseling, for example, I told my husband, I was like, look, I need to work on me. I need to work on some things. And I recognized that within myself. And I said, if I kind of act kind of funny, this is before we became counselors. If I kind of act kind of funny, I'm snapping or I'm tripping or I'm quiet, it's because I'm going through counseling. Can you please just support me through this?
Yeah.
And, just like him, that's how we did it. But
Mhm.
when we got to the place of healing where we were working on better selves as individuals, because see, we know, I'm gonna get to preaching, but the word of God, you're no longer two but one flesh. How can you become one flesh if both of y'all still broken, not willing? Because when we worked on our healing, I found out things
Mhm.
about I wasn't like, okay, what'd you and the council talk about today? I ain't even care. How about this? I'm gonna pray for you while you going to counseling. You pray for me while I go to counseling. And so what I found is just what you said earlier. As we begin to have our discussions on a deeper level, because a lot of individuals have those surface conversations,
Mhm.
I'm gonna have a conversation with you to the level that you're able to have it. If you
Mhm.
can't go deep, I'm not going deep with you. But what me and my husband would do is I will find out things and we can dig deeper. He was comfortable opening up. I was comfortable opening up because I didn't want him to clown me, which he never has, about what I've been through. And so once you heal, and you're in a relationship, you're in a marriage, to me, you get to love each other on a deeper level. And I find fell even more in love with my husband. People in Central Texas know I don't play about my husband or my kids. And it made me even more defensive. Like, I'm gonna give you an example now. I know you got a question, but we was in a setting and individuals didn't know because I never say, oh, that's my husband, or he say that's my wife. So I just sit there. I'm in a classroom, and he happened to be facilitating him and some of his coworkers. And so I'm listening to this one cat, and he said something like, oh, Mr. King, such, 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 such. And before I know it, Ronnie, I was like, what Mr. King? You talking about Martin Luther the King, or you talking about that one over there? Because that one right there belonged to me. You might want to, but it's I love him so much to where you really protect each other. You come together even more, and you definitely want to work on building a family and being solid. But if two broken people, you're just existing. You're just existing. So why not be willing to do the work for the sake of your relationship, for the sake of yourself? Let me start off there. For the sake of yourself, the sake of having a healthy relationship, a healthy marriage, and a healthy family, by putting in the work and doing what you need to do, knowing that it's not going to be easy. Because when I wrote this book, there were many a day I would pray and say, Lord, because I had to go into some places which I will read about that, yes, I was healed from, but in order to allow it to just flow, the words to flow in that book, I had to allow myself to get back into that place emotionally. And then when it was too much, God will pull me back out. And then I'll be like, okay. And I give it a couple of days and process on it. And even myself, I'm like, how in the world did I make it through that? A lot of us have a how did I make it through story, but we've never really dug deep into it because we don't want to allow ourselves to feel that hurt. But if you broken in a broken relationship, you hurting anyway.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So,
Yes, ma'am.
So what notes you have now?
So for me, it's you kind of ended in the segue before we begin to close this out.
Okay.
Two halves do not make a whole,
Yeah.
because kind of like what she was saying, if she wasn't willing to work on her and he was not willing to work on him, there still won't make them whole.
Right.
So she has to recognize, she recognized that I'm going to get work on myself, and he began to work on himself as well.
Mhm.
That is what makes it whole.
Right.
Not two halves. I don't care. 0.5 and 0.5 mathematically makes one, but in a relationship, 0.5 and 0.5 is 0.5 and 0.5.
Mhm.
That's it. So it's not going to make your relationship better, and it's not going to make your relationship whole, because you only have enough in your cup to only fill half a cup. I don't care
Wow.
what it is. We continue to say, oh, I'm going to pour into him, or I'm going to pour into her. Well, how much you
Mhm.
pouring if your cup is half?
Come on.
You can't fill me up. You can't fill me with joy. You can't fill me with happiness. You can't fill me with laughter, because you can only give me half of joy. You can
Yeah.
only give me half of a laugh. You can only give me half of a love, because that's all you have yourself. So
Mhm.
I need you to work on you while I
Yeah.
work on me. Because when I work on me and you work on you, then I am better for you than ever before, because
Yeah.
I have acknowledged that I need to fix me. I don't need you to tell me I need to fix me. I
Come
just
on.
need you to allow me to work on me, because when I work on me, I can identify the best parts of me, and I'll work on the things that, something that I learned as well, and I seen some people do it, because I had to deal with it. Like in my first marriage, I was like, it was easy for me to identify the things that she was doing wrong. It
Yes.
was easy for me to point at the things that she was doing wrong, because I never really identified the things that she did right. And I
Come
think what
on.
happens as men, when we begin to it, I can only speak from a man's perspective. I can't
Go
speak from
ahead.
a
Go
woman's
ahead.
perspective.
Mhm.
And when you talk about the things that she's doing wrong, then there are more things that she's not going to work on because you identified the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you would, when you identify all the bad stuff, then she's going to feel like you don't see anything good in her.
Right.
And when it get to that point, that is when your relationship becomes detrimental,
Mm-hmm.
because you have again try to pour all of you into it, but you only had a half a cup.
Mm.
So for you men that are out there, I'm not perfect. I'm still working on my own self. But just like when I communicate, I rather communicate the things that you do right. You're going to identify the things that you do wrong
Right.
because I'm praising the things that you do right. You know what? I thank you for telling me my hair looks good today. I thank you for telling me that I look nice today, but let me go let me go do this because I know I need to work on that. And then they're
Mm-hmm.
going to get better. That's just my thing. Two
Right.
halves don't make a whole. Let's begin to intercede for one another. Stop trying to find healing in your mate. Allow
Mm.
yourself to go through that healing process, because when
Mm-hmm.
you go through that healing process, make sure you get the book, because that book may be able to help you in your healing process, because it's the experience that allow you to know that the direction that you're going is not a journey that you need to take by yourself.
Yes, yes, that's good. You done wrap that all up. That is good. Yes, you're
Yes,
right.
ma'am. So tell the people where they can find your book, and if you have any events coming up, how can they participate?
Okay, so we do have a virtual book signing. The virtual book release, if you will, is coming up. It's on March the 27th, and that will happen at 3 p.m. To get more information, how to register, and all those good things, or if you would like to pre order the book, you can go to the website www.marriagemondayswiththekings. So, Marriage Mondays with the Kings with an S.com. All the information is on there. The upcoming virtual book release, pre-order the book. It is all there. And so I would just encourage you all, hey, grab a friend, join us, male, female. I would love to be able to have you all ask questions of me as we do the virtual book release, and
Mhm.
just kind of get it out there, really praying that it really will heal individuals. So I don't care if you're male, female, military, mom, like husband, wife, this book can speak to you in every facet, because I
Right.
continuously spoke about the brokenness, and it's brokenness that we have within ourselves that we don't even recognize it. So in reading the book, you may be like, "Oh, I do that. Oh, I might need to get some help." So,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, go and get the book. Not for me, but so we can identify and we can heal, we can have stronger relationships, marriages, and families,
Yes.
and ourselves.
Yeah. So again, make sure you go out there and click the link, because the link is inside the content of this live. Click the link, go purchase the book, and once you read the book, go ahead and take that book to your book club and get everybody else to read it, get everybody else to talk about it, because the dialogue that you create is a dialogue that can be healthy enough to want someone else to want to begin their healing process.
Yes.
Because sometimes a journey, well, destiny is not reached because the journey has yet to start. I'm gonna
Mm,
say that again.
good.
Oftentimes, the destination is not reached because the journey has never been started. So, if this is the beginning of your journey to get you to the destination of healing, allow that process to start, and then you be the example for somebody else who need that same healing process. Because the journey that you took could be the experience for them to start their process themselves.
Wow, that's good.
Miss King, I appreciate you for being here and being a part of Texas Black Pages. Boots on the ground. Boots on the ground is people who are actively doing things in the community. That's boots on the ground. So I thank you for being here. Appreciate you for SL Elite Publishing, Miss Shirley Latour, for being a part of the process, and
Yeah.
Miss King, I salute you. I think I remember seeing you preach. I had went to Miss Lolita Gilmore's event,
Hmm.
and this was probably 2 years ago,
Hmm.
and I think I remember that. Yeah. Good word. All right. Now, yeah, if you need anything, let me know. And I will definitely love to have you back at a later date so we can talk about your what's next and see how things have transpired for you. Mr. King, I appreciate you for standing in the gap to want to be at the forefront of what change can look like for men. And I'm interested even having, speaking to Mr. King from a male's perspective and having this type of conversation and adding more men to the room, because there is an event that the Innovation Black Chamber of Commerce, no one knows about it yet, but I'll just put it out there anyway. There is an event that I spoke with Ms. Latour about, which is called Network King, King, which is men coming together. You take networking, but you make it Network King. Men, come in here and let's begin to network. Let's talk. Let's break bread. Let's create dialogue. Let's be open. Let's be transparent. Let's allow ourselves to heal. If you cry, so be it. No one else need to know about it. Because when we walk out that door, we're walking out the door as kings because we network king. Hey, you guys be blessed. And we thank you guys for being a part of the show. Any last words, ma'am?
Heal. That's all I can say. Work on healing. Self-soothing behaviors is not going to work. Drugs, alcohol, sex. If you're doing that, that's signs of brokenness. You masking it. Heal.
Yes, ma'am. Y'all be blessed. Peace.